The subject of today's episode is one of the most well-known extinct animals in the world. But this animal did not die out millions of years ago, like the dinosaurs, or even thousands of years ago, like the mammoths. But by the time this animal went extinct, humans had already fought a world war, and Mickey Mouse was already gracing our TV screens. In fact, the extinction of today's subject was so recent that we have photographic and video evidence of its existence and demise. For about 2 million years, this large carnivore was widespread in Australia and New Guinea. But by the time European settlers arrived in Australia, they were only found on the island of Tasmania. It would live alongside humans for over 100 years before being driven to extinction by an all too familiar source. Hi everyone, I'm Corey from Going Wild, and welcome to our Extinct Animal Archives series, where we talk about the animals that we have lost. Today we are talking about the Tasmanian tiger. The Tasmanian tiger goes by many names. These include the Tassie tiger, as it is affectionately known by some Aussies, and the Thylacine, which most closely resembles its Latin name, Thylacine, which translates to dog-headed. Early evidence of human encounters with thylacines are recorded in Aboriginal rock paintings from thousands of years ago. The Tasmanian tiger was first mentioned in European records from 1642, when a Dutch explorer reported footprints that resembled that of a tiger. Accounts from the 1800s describe the thylacine as an animal of a truly singular and novel description, and a species perfectly distinct from any of the animal creation hitherto known. Like the aardvark in our previous video, it was similar in size and weight to a Labrador dog. These unique creatures stood 56 centimeters tall and measured 1.5 meters from nose to tail. It weighed about 25 kilograms. They had a stiff tail with a large base that made it look like it was just an extension of its body. But unlike dogs, the thylacine could not wag its tail. The thylacine had large, powerful jaws that it could open into a wide 120-degree gape. The Tasmanian tiger's most recognizable feature also gave it its name, the 15 to 20 tiger-like stripes on its back. Despite resembling both dogs and tigers, the thylacine is actually more closely related to a kangaroo. Thylacines shared a common ancestor with dogs 160 million years ago, and shared a common ancestor with kangaroos 75 million years ago. They only look like dogs due to convergent evolution, which means that they evolved similar traits independently due to similar selective pressures. Like kangaroos and other marsupials, thylacine females had pouches where they would carry their cubs. Thylacines were mostly found in open woodland areas. They were generally solitary but have been seen in packs of up to 6. Females had litters of up to 4, but 2 or 3 cubs were more common. After birth, the cubs would crawl into their mother's pouch and attach to one of her 4 teats. A mother would carry all of her young in her pouch for up to 3 months. The mother's pouch stretched as the cubs grew. Mature thylacines would stay in caves, hollow logs, or hidden lairs. Tasmanian tigers were mostly nocturnal, which means that they were mostly active at night. They would hunt and kill kangaroos, wallabies, rodents, emus, and other birds. They reportedly moved very slowly and stiffly. Reports say that they were ambush predators, which means that they would lie in wait and then pounce, similar to a cat. Though supposedly stiff in movement, thylacines in captivity were spotted jumping nearly 2.5 meters from the floor to the top of a wall and reportedly jumped between crossbeams with great agility. The Tasmanian tiger had 2 ways of moving around. They would walk on all 4s like dogs, and they would sometimes hop on their hind legs like kangaroos. Thylacines had been observed alternating between hopping and walking on all 4s. This apparently made the creature appear uncoordinated or injured. Some reports state that thylacines were aggressive when attacking. A thylacine once attacked and killed a bull terrier dog. Despite this ability to display aggression, they were shy and timid around humans and avoided human contact where possible. When captured, they didn't struggle, and reports indicate that they sometimes appeared to die of shock. We are not sure how long they lived, but thylacines in captivity survived between 9 to 12 years. Experts believe that they probably lived up to 14 years in the wild. Thylacine fossils date back to 30 million years ago. The Tasmanian tiger as we know it appeared around 2 million years ago and was widespread in Australia and New Guinea. At around 70,000 years ago, their numbers started to drop, likely due to a loss in habitat as a result of cooler temperatures. The Tasmanian tiger population became isolated from the mainland population when the sea levels rose about 14,000 years ago. By 3,000 years ago, they became extinct on mainland Australia and in New Guinea. These local extinctions coincided closely with the arrival of dingoes and wild dogs. These ancient domestic dogs were brought to Australia and New Guinea from Southeast Asia and competed with the thylacine for food. Dingoes did not make it to Tasmania, which is likely the reason why thylacines persisted there for so long. They continued to be widespread in Tasmania until European arrival. European explorers have visited Tasmania and described the thylacine since the 1600s. But it wasn't until 1803 that British settlers colonized Tasmania, or Van Diemen's Land as it was known then. The colonizers brought with them sheep and poultry, many of which quickly fell prey to the native thylacine. Although the extent of Tasmanian tiger predation on livestock is now believed to have been exaggerated, tension quickly began to mount between farmers and these unique creatures. In 1830, the Van Diemen's Land Company, a farming corporation, introduced a bounty to eradicate thylacines from their farmlands. Around this time, nearly 3,500 thylacine skins were exported to London to be made into coats. By the 1860s, extinction already seemed imminent for the Tasmanian tiger. A famous naturalist, John Gould, wrote, "When the comparatively small island of Tasmania becomes more densely populated and its primitive forests are intersected with roads, the number of this singular animal will speedily diminish, and it will then, like the wolf of England and Scotland, be recorded as an animal of the past." Despite these warnings, the Tasmanian government instated a bounty in 1888 where they offered a £1 reward per thylacine scalp. This kill order was likely the nail in the coffin for the thylacine. In total, nearly 2,200 bounties were collected. Perhaps ironically, the Tasmanian government now sports 2 thylacines on their coat of arms. By 1910, Tasmanian tigers had become rare and were subsequently in high demand from zoos globally. The capture and exports of thylacines to zoos further reduced their numbers. Their numbers continued to diminish until the last wild thylacine was captured and sold to the Hobart Zoo in 1933. The Tasmanian tiger was finally declared a protected species in 1936, but it was already too late. 2 months later, the last known thylacine, named Benjamin, died at Hobart Zoo. Following the presumed extinction of the thylacine, large amounts of time and money were spent on finding evidence that these creatures had somehow survived. People in Australia and globally held on to hope that Tasmanian tigers were living peacefully in unexplored areas of Tasmania. In the 1960s, the remains of 2 thylacines were found in caves in southern Australia. The animals appear to have died recently, raising hope that thylacines may still be alive. However, carbon dating of the remains indicated that it lived between 4,000 and 5,000 years ago. The remains were naturally mummified and preserved in the sheltered and oxygen-poor cave. Experts carried out numerous searches between the 1930s and 1990s and found no evidence of living thylacines. But this does not stop people from hoping. Presumed Tasmanian tiger sightings are still reported to this day. But so far, none of these sightings has produced enough evidence to convince experts that the thylacine is alive and well. Do you think that the thylacine can still be out there? Tell us in the comments below. While some hold on to hope of finding living thylacines, others are planning to use gene editing technology to bring them back from extinction, in a process called de-extinction. You may have heard about this technology, as scientists are also using it to attempt to bring back the mammoth. The thylacine is a good candidate for de-extinction because it went extinct so recently. We have viable DNA and its natural prey and habitat still exists. To successfully bring back the Tasmanian tiger, researchers must first sequence its genome. The next step is to compare the thylacine's genome with that of its closest living relative, fat-tailed dunarts. and to use CRISPR gene editing technology to modify the Dunot's genome to be more similar to that of a thylacine. This will produce a thylacine-ish thing, as described by one of the researchers working on the project. In theory, reintroducing Tasmanian tigers to the ecosystems where they were once found could help restore balance to Tasmania's natural ecosystems, as they are expected to hunt and ultimately reduce populations of overabundant prey species. Another benefit of such a project is that donations made and research done to bring back the thylacine also helps to better understand living marsupials and can help to protect them in the future. But some scientists are skeptical and say that the de-extinction of the thylacine is impossible. After all, they last shared a common ancestor with the Dunot 40 million years ago. Thylacines are so unique that they form their own taxonomical family. To put this into context, humans share a family with other primates. This means that we are more similar to apes than the thylacine is to any other animal. Subsequently, an expert from the Australian Museum compares trying to modify the Dunot genes into a thylacine to trying to change dogs into cats. Chris Helgen from the Australian Museum says that some species are simply gone forever because of how unique they were, and the thylacine is one of them. At the end of the day, we need to question the ethics of de-extinction. Have humans really learned from our past mistakes, and have we truly improved our behavior towards the natural world? Evidence suggests not. If we do succeed in bringing back the thylacine, or something similar, will we just subject it to further death and destruction? Would we fail it for a second time? Some experts say that money from de-extinction projects would be better spent protecting the animals that we still have. There are currently 1,894 species in Australia that are threatened with extinction. Perhaps we can act in time to save them from the same fate as the thylacine. Some organizations are working on exactly that. If you would like to assist or contribute towards protecting Australia's wildlife, check the links in the description below. So is there anything that we can learn from the loss of the thylacine? We can learn the importance of coexisting with nature. Many animals around the world are still being persecuted by humans. Perhaps one day our children will make videos about the animals that were lost under our watch. But it is not too late. The thylacine did not die for nothing. The least we can do is learn from our mistakes. Thanks for listening, everyone. Which extinct animal or plant should we cover next? Tell us in the comments below.